Welcome to our Tactical Tuesday for August the 31st, 2021, everybody. Tonight is a very, very interesting topic. It's one that every single one of us that have gotten into real estate investment at one time or another, whether that was the last few months, whether that was the last year, whether that was 20 years ago, it doesn't matter. We all had to start somewhere. And so tonight's training is for our newbies. Guys, we've had a lot of people join our group within the last month, within the last couple of months. Our group is growing tremendously. And so because of that, we thought we would address some of the new ones to our group. Does that mean, though, that if you are a veteran investor or you already own several properties that this training doesn't apply to you? Absolutely not. We all have to be reminded of some of the fundamentals when it comes to real estate investment. So say hello as you come on. Let us know where you're from. Hello, Cindy from Edmonton. And let us know where you're from, guys. All across the country, we know that we have many that are interested in real estate investment. Many people wonder, why real estate? Why does everybody talk about investing in real estate? Why is that the vehicle that many people use to become wealthy? Why is that? We're going to talk about that today. In fact, three things we're going to talk about. Wow. We have Florida with us. We have Victoria. We have Whitby, Ontario. And as we know, we have all across the country of Canada, and we have some from the United States joining us as well. So welcome everybody to our training this evening. Where do you start? Three things that we're going to talk about tonight. Number one, we're going to talk about some of the strategies, how to make money in real estate investment. Okay, so what are some of the strategies that people use to make money? As we go through these strategies, and we're not going to go into great detail on them, but as we go through them, you might resonate with one or two of them. You might say, I think I could do one of those. I think that kind of strategy makes sense for me. So grab a pen and paper, guys, and start taking notes, because we're going to talk about some of the strategies when it comes to real estate investment. Number two, we're going to talk about how to choose a market. Whether we're in Florida, whether we're in Victoria, whether we're in Whitby, Ontario, or Edmonton or Ottawa, it doesn't matter where we are. How do we choose a market to invest in? That's what we're going to talk about. Number two, what are some of the things we look for in a particular market? Do we have to invest in our backyard, or could we invest somewhere else that maybe is going to give us a bigger return? So we're going to focus on that. And then once we've figured out a market, how do we pick a property? What are some of the things that we look for when it comes to a property? So those are the three things, guys, that we're going to talk about today. Number one, how to make money, strategies. Number two, how to choose a market. Number three, how to choose a property. These are the three things we need to kind of figure out when we're just getting going, when we're a newbie, when we're just trying to figure out this whole thing that is real estate investment. We need to understand these three things. So as you have questions, as we go through this training over the next 45 minutes to an hour, guys, throw them in the comments. Let us know your questions. It's just me today. Tiffany is taking the day off. We happen to be vacationing in the Invermere, BC area. We were up in Panorama for a couple days. I managed to golf Grey Wolf Golf Course, one of my favorite golf courses in the world. We did some dirt bike riding. And we actually hit some of the peaks around here and got to the top of the mountains. Absolutely beautiful. One of my favorite places in the world. So we're here in Invermere, BC still. We are here for a couple more days before we head home. And then we head east on our countrywide tour. So we're looking forward to that after we meet all of you in the Edmonton area next Tuesday. So we're looking forward to that as well. So guys, I'm already looking at some of your comments here, and yeah, we have from Nova Scotia to Vancouver Island, all golf. Yes. Okay. I don't know who the Facebook user is that said golf, let's play when you're in Edmonton next week, because you haven't given permission to StreamYard, or maybe you did and it's expired. Just go to streamyard.com/Facebook, give them permission, and then I can see who your name is. Are you here tomorrow? Again, it just says Facebook user for some reason. That's the downside of using StreamYard. But guys, right now we are streaming live to Facebook Fearless Group and to our YouTube channel. So that's the benefit of going through StreamYard. But sometimes I can't see who is commenting. But great training tonight, guys. If you are new with us, and I'm not sure if you can hear it, but it's starting to rain here. I was actually planning to be outside to do this training and be in front of the lake or a view of the mountains or something like that, but it's windy like heck and it is starting to rain, so that's why I'm inside here today. Yes, thank you, Facebook user that just asked to click here so Corey can see your name. That's what you need to go, streamyard.com/Facebook, and I'll see your name, guys. Okay, newbies. Here we go. Veterans, remember the basics. Sometimes we all have to remember to go back to the basics when it comes to real estate investment. Real estate is what makes millionaires. Real estate is what makes people wealthy. Real estate is what can enable you to reach whatever goals and dreams you want to achieve as far as money is concerned, as far as lifestyle is concerned, as far as freedom and time is concerned. Real estate can get you there, guys. It's just a matter of doing it right. And the thing is a lot of investors don't start off the right way. Maybe buy the wrong property or buy in the wrong market or don't quite understand the strategies that they could have used so that they can be successful when it comes to real estate investment. So some of the basic things we're going to talk about today. And as we go through this training, guys, when you have questions, if I say something that doesn't really resonate or doesn't make sense or you don't quite understand, throw it in the comments and I'll try to answer that for you, okay? Here we go. So number one, guys, number one thing when it comes to real estate investment that we want to understand are some of the strategies that we want to use. Are we somebody that wants to be doing a flip? Are we somebody that wants to do an RTO, an AFS, a VTB? Maybe we're somebody that doesn't understand any of the things I just talked about. So we're going to go through each of these strategies quickly, give you a very basic outline as to what they mean and how you can use them. And then we're going to go into choosing a market, choosing a location, and choosing a property, okay? So how do we make money? Number one, how do we make money in real estate? There's so many ways you can make money in real estate. Number one way though, guys, and this is a key, number one way that people make money when it comes to real estate investment is very, very simple. Very simple. It is a buy and hold strategy. This is the strategy that we recommend. This is the strategy that I recommend to you if you're planning on gaining wealth when it comes to real estate. Why is that? Because if you buy a property, you rent out that property, there's so many things that can happen over a period of 5, 7, 10, 20 years. Literally just buying a property, maintaining that property, holding that property for a long period of time. There are so many benefits to doing that. Number one way you make money in real estate is equity appreciation. So let's say today you bought a property in a market and it was worth $300,000. Let's say that property was worth $300,000. Now, if we went back 20 years ago, $300,000 property was a ridiculously expensive property. Agreed? It was very, very expensive. Now, $300,000 property in a lot of markets in Canada doesn't even really get you a one-bedroom apartment, or maybe it'll get you a very small single-family home, depending on what market you're in. But that's the beauty of real estate is over time, those prices go up. Now, does that mean if you buy something today, next year it's worth more? In some markets, yes. Does that mean that that's going to be the case in all markets across Canada? Absolutely not. But if you were to wait 5 years, if you were to wait 10 years, you're to wait 15 years or 20 years. How many markets could we look at that 20 years ago were the same price as today? Next to none, guys. Next to none. The value always tends to go up when it comes to real estate. So that's equity appreciation. That's the value of the property going up. Number one strategy, guys, is just buy a property, hold on to it long enough that the value is going to go up. Okay, now that's the thing that gets a lot of people is they tend to buy something, and 2 years down the road, maybe it's gone down in value, and they say, well, this real estate thing doesn't work. Because every market goes up, every market goes down. And, sometimes we buy at the peak. Tiffany and I bought a few properties in 2007 in Edmonton. That was near the peak of our market. And quite frankly, 13 years later, some of those properties are barely worth more than they were back in 2007. Do all markets go up every single year? Absolutely not. Are some going to go up and some going to go down and then some going to go up again? Absolutely. We have to count on it, and that's why time is needed if we're going to count on equity appreciation. It's not hail, whoever asked. It's not hail. No, it's just rain, believe it or not. But we're in the motorhome, and for some reason it comes in louder here, and it's actually awesome. Love it, love it. Especially when you're going to bed and it's raining. Love it. Hopefully it's not too loud and you can still hear me. Number two way you make money in real estate investment, and this doesn't matter what the market does, guys, is your mortgage gets paid down. So if you buy a property, you have monthly expenses, but you bought the right property and the rent you collect covers those expenses, then your mortgage, which is a big chunk of the cost of that property, gets paid off by a tenant, by those living in your property. That's really the meat and bones of real estate investment, guys. If you hold a property, think about it. You buy a property with a 25-year mortgage, you hold it for 25 years, it has no mortgage anymore, you have a paid off property. It's likely gone up in value. There's no mortgage anymore. You can sell that property for however hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions that it's worth. And you have that cash in your pocket, or you keep collecting that rent every single month and that goes into your pocket. So number two way that you make money in real estate when it comes to a buy and hold is your mortgage being paid down. Okay, so number one, value going up. Number two, mortgage going down. What's the third major way you make money in real estate? And that is cash flow. So that means that if I buy a property and all my expenses, my mortgage, my taxes, my insurance, all of my expenses come to $2,000 a month, and I can rent that property for $2,500, $2,600 a month, I'm making $500, $600 every single month in what we call cash flow. That's a monthly cash flow. So the three main ways, guys, that you make money in real estate. Number one, your value goes up. Number two, your mortgage goes down. Number three, you have a monthly income when it comes to the cash flow. Okay, so those are the three ways you make money in real estate. Now, what are some other strategies other than buy and hold? And I will say this, guys, is that when you buy and hold real estate for a long period of time, and when you start to see those mortgages getting lower and lower every single year and you're not paying them, somebody else is paying them down for you, and you see the value starting to go up, and you're still cash flowing along the way, and somebody else has given you the down payment to buy that property in the very beginning, or somebody else has qualified for that mortgage in the very beginning, that's a strategy, guys, that we call joint venturing. That's where you partner with somebody that provides the financial side of things, and you provide the management side of things. You're managing that investment for them. Okay, so that's what we call joint venturing. So that's one strategy that Tiffany and I use to buy a ton of property in the Edmonton area when we got started in real estate. And we did that by using other people's money. So we're going to talk about this briefly. We're going to talk about every one of these strategies briefly. And if one of these resonate with you, then you can start to look it up more, start to learn more, start to look back at some of our Tactical Tuesday training, start to really ask questions within our Fearless group here. Start to really learn more about these strategies. Join our Ignited group. If you want to really take it to the next level, join our Igniteds, guys, and we will take you to the next level, and you can really do all of these strategies that we're talking about. So number one strategy when it comes to real estate investment is buy and hold. Number two, the one that we used the most was joint venturing along with buy and hold. And you'll notice that a lot of these strategies can be combined with one another. So what is joint venturing? Somebody gives the down payment and qualifies for the mortgage. Somebody finds the property, manages the property, and eventually helps to sell that property. And you split the profits. Simple as that. We split everything 50-50. Vast majority of our joint ventures were split 50-50. And that's an easy way to start buying real estate, guys. If you're in the position where you don't have the down payment, maybe you'd have the down payment, but you can't qualify for a mortgage, you start to partner with other real estate investors that can supply what you don't have. So if I have the time to manage a property, if I have the time to find a good investment property, if I have the contacts to find a good investment property that somebody else doesn't have, then we end up joining forces together and we can accomplish more. Okay? Do you want 100% of one person's work, your own, or do you want 1% of 100 people around you? That's the question. I would much rather have 1% of 100 people around me than to have 100% of my own. Why? Because everybody can bring something else to the table. And when you're joint venturing, that's the whole point of it, guys, is that somebody else can bring what you're missing. So if you're sitting here tonight and you're saying, well, I'm new to this real estate investing game, or I'm just wanting to get started, but I can't do this, or I can't do that, or I'm missing this, or I'm missing that. What you need to do, guys, is you need to partner with somebody else that has what you're missing. It's as simple as that. And that's what we call joint venturing. Okay. So that's a strategy that got us 100 plus properties in the Edmonton area. Is we found investors that wanted to invest with us. How did we do that? You'll learn about that in Ignited. How did we do that? We found people that wanted to invest with us. Simple as that. We started conversations with people. Guys, this is the stuff we talk about in our boot camp all the time. That's how we found investors. And we bought our property. We bought as much as we wanted to buy. What are some other strategies when it comes to real estate? Well, we all have watched HGTV, right? We've all watched our friend Scott McGilvery doing many different things when it comes to income properties, adding suites to a property, or going out there and finding a good property, renovating it, flipping it and selling it. So flipping is another great strategy that we see all the time on TV, guys, that a lot of people make money at. Do they create wealth? That's questionable. Okay. Creating wealth is long-term buy and hold. Creating cash, creating money to do other things with is flipping, and some of the other strategies that we're going to go into now. Flipping is very simply buying a property. We all kind of know what this is, I think. Renovating it somewhat, increasing the value some way, and then selling it again, making $50,000, making $100,000, making some money along the way to enable us to do the real strategy, which is the long-term buy and hold. Have you heard of AFS? Here's another strategy, another creative strategy. It's agreement for sale. That's where we have an agreement with a seller So a seller is selling a piece of property and they can't sell it for some reason or another. We say to them, listen, I will buy your property, but I'm going to pay you in 3 years, or I'm going to pay you in 5 years. We have an agreement we put together. It's called an AFS, an agreement we put together to buy that property a few years or at some point down the road. That's what an AFS is. And in the meantime, we take ownership. We put the tenants in. We manage that property. We give them a monthly payment to cover the mortgage that they may have on that property already. That's what AFS is all about, or agreement for sale. A great strategy to get started if we don't have the money or down payment up front or the mortgage qualification ability. That takes research and time, though, to be able to find and market for those sellers that will accept this strategy. Okay, it's not just walking up to anybody and saying, hey, I'm going to give you, I'll buy this property, but I'm not going to pay you for 5 years. Not every seller is going to be open to that strategy. So it comes, our marketing has to be in place to do that strategy. What are some other ones? Have you heard of lease to own or rent to own? That's very, very simple when it comes to buying a property, but then we rent to own or lease to own to somebody else. We find a tenant that is going to not only pay us the rent, but also pay us extra amount every month, which adds to our cash flow, guys. And they take ownership of that property. It becomes theirs. We don't need a property manager in this case. Our cash flow goes up dramatically, but we usually have an exit strategy already lined out with our rent to own tenant. They are going to decide, or we decide up front with them, what the selling cost of that property is going to be. And the extra amount that they pay us every single month goes towards their down payment. That would be a rent to own or a lease to own. And guys, if you want more information about these strategies, ask questions within the Fearless Real Estate group and we will answer them for you, okay? What's another strategy? Have you heard of a VTB, a vendor take back? Guys, this is a strategy that we used when we were doing a lot of buying. Is we used the VTB strategy because it enabled us to put less money down on the property. How does it work? Well, let's say I'm buying a property for $100,000. I have to put 20% down, which is $20,000. But I don't have 20,000. Maybe I have 10,000. Well, I will pay 10,000 to the seller. I'll get my mortgage for 80,000. So they're getting 90,000 up front. But they're going to hold what's called a VTB, or a vendor take back mortgage. And in 3 years or 5 years or whatever term we decide, we will pay them back that money plus interest. So why is that good for us? Because we buy a property for less money up front. Why is that good for them? Because they actually sell their property for more than 100,000. Okay, so we're giving them 10,000 plus interest over those few years. So let's say we give them 6% interest over 3 years. That's $18,000. They're now selling that $100,000 property for $118,000. But guys, we got into it for $10,000 down. That's a very simplified way of explaining it, but using the vendor take back strategy is very, very helpful in buying a property with less money down. Private lending. Rrsps. You can invest your Rrsps in real estate. You can lend them out as though you are a bank. This is another way you can make money when it comes to real estate investment. Lend out your money as though you were the bank. Let's say you have $100,000 to lend out, or $100,000 you want to invest. There's another investor somewhere that needs $100,000 to do a renovation, or needs $100,000 to do something when it comes to real estate investment. You now become the bank and you say to them, listen, I will lend you my $100,000, but you need to pay me X amount in interest. That can be anywhere from 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16% interest per year that you can get on your RRSP or your cash that you have. It doesn't have to be registered funds to be able to private lend it out. There's lots of real estate investors that need cash to do stuff, can't go to the bank and get it because of the lending restrictions. So can you privately lend? Absolutely. That's what private lending is all about. Wholesaling and assignments. This is a strategy that made us a ton of money, guys. We made $70,000 in 1 month doing this strategy back in the day. This was back in 2012 when we were doing a lot of assignments. We would find a good property and get it under contract, negotiate a good deal on that property. And then what we would do is find another investor. We would find another investor that was interested in that property, and we would sell them the contract. Okay, so this is not selling a property necessarily. This is selling an agreement or selling a contract. You go out there and negotiate something really, really good, and then you sell that great opportunity to somebody else. We started out back in 2009 selling these for $1,500, a great negotiated contract on a property. And then we ended up selling them at our later stages for $10,000, $12,000. We bought some too. In our big buying days, we paid $8,000 per property because they were already negotiated for us. They were already a great deal. They were exactly what we were looking for. Was it worth it for us to be paying that money? Absolutely. That is wholesaling or selling an assignment. You're assigning a contract to somebody else. So guys, we're ripping through some of these strategies here. We've talked briefly about buy and hold strategy, the most important one when it comes to real estate. We talked about joint venturing, flipping, agreements for sale, lease to own. We talked about VTBs. We talked about Rrsps and private lending, and we talked about wholesaling and assignments. These are a lot of the strategies, and are there more? Absolutely. Can these strategies be combined together? Absolutely. You could do an agreement for sale and then assign it to somebody else. Or you can do an agreement for sale and then have a rent-to-own tenant that takes it over. You can start doing a lot of these strategies and putting them together. Now, I'm going to stop. James asked a question. Why would, where did it go? Why would a seller use AFS? Why would a seller use an agreement for sale? They would sell by agreement for sale, James, because maybe we are going to give them more than they could get now. We're promising them X amount of dollars down the road versus what they could get today. Perhaps they would use it because maybe they've sold other properties in this tax year and they don't want to sell another one in this tax year. So maybe they want to defer the sale of that property to later on down the road. They may not be able to sell. Maybe they're in a market where there's not a ton of buyers, and we come along and offer them full price or full pop as long as they fit the term that we're talking about in an AFS. There's lots of reasons why a seller would use an agreement for sale. Good question, James. Somebody asked, do you recommend buying a property with cash? And I will tell you this, I would say no. I don't recommend buying a property with cash. Now, it depends on what your strategy is, and it depends on what your long-term outlook is. But we did a training on this it was probably about a year ago now, where we compared somebody who bought a property with cash and somebody who could, with that same cash, buy 5 properties. What was the end result? Even though the person with 5 properties had mortgages on every single one of those properties, absolutely blew away the person that just bought a property free and clear with cash. So there's reasons why I wouldn't buy a property with cash, and that is mainly because your returns are going to be significantly higher if you don't. You get the mortgage pay down. There's many other reasons. You have 5 properties going up in value instead of 1 if you use that cash strategically. Yes, Marie, BRRRRs. BRRRRs are very good. And there's a couple of strategies combined. Buy, renovate, rent, refinance. There's so many different ways we can combine some of these strategies that we're talking about today. All right. Let's see here. Still trying to lock in a deal in private lending. Yes. There's lots of people looking for private lending. There's also a lot of people wanting to lend their money. So guys, if you're wanting to lend, if you are looking, you need to get out there and say something. You need to get out there, put a post in Fearless, guys, and say, I'm looking for funds. Or put a post and say, I have funds to offer and I'm looking for X amount of dollars. Nothing wrong with that. Yes, Melanie, you have missed some awesomeness. I would say so, but I'm not going to brag too much. Okay, let's move on. Yes, lots of people, Sean says, take that message into Fearless. Lots of people have advice for you. Absolutely. So today, guys, so far we have talked about, number one, some of the strategies when it comes to real estate investment and how we can make money when it comes to real estate. Next thing we're going to talk about is a market. And this is a big one, and a big one where people make mistakes, guys. So I want you to pay attention to this. Whether you're a veteran, whether you own 50 properties, or whether you're buying your first one, I want you to pay attention to this because it's very, very important. We have seen hundreds, if not thousands of investors make mistakes when it comes to investing. Why? Because they chose the wrong market, because they didn't do their research, because they didn't know the fundamentals that drive that market. Remember the buy and hold strategy we talked about earlier? If we're going to be holding a property for a long period of time, we need to make sure we're in the market where we're going to make money doing that. Okay, it's very, very important. So what are some of the things we look at? Well, first of all, let's look at it in a macro point of view. Okay, guys? So macro, let's say we choose Canada. Are there other countries in the world that the real estate returns could probably be better? Yes, absolutely. Is Canada the best in the world? No. So are there other places we get higher returns? Yes. We would have to do our research to find them. But let's say we choose Canada. Now, what province or what province or area in Canada do we want to be investing in? What are some of the things that we want to look for? We're going to talk about three main things that we look for in a market, guys. Number one thing I would suggest for you to look at is the population increasing or is the population decreasing? Okay? Is the population going up or is the population going down? How would that affect our real estate investment? Throw it in the comments. How would that affect our real estate investment? Let's say we bought it in a province where the population was stagnant. It wasn't going up. It wasn't going down. Nobody was moving in. How would that affect our real estate investment? Let's look at this on a macro point of view. There we go. Somebody just said it. Supply and demand. This is absolutely in every type of industry that we talk about. Supply and demand are very, very important. Higher population means price growth from supply and demand. Absolutely, Sean. Increasing population creates demand for more homes. Absolutely, Todd. So population growth, whether that is babies being born, whether that is people moving from other provinces into ours, whether that is people moving from other countries into our location. Population growth. If the population is growing and they have nowhere to live, what happens? Rents go up, property values go up. Why do we want to invest somewhere where property values and rents go up? We talked about that earlier, guys. We're going to cash flow better. We're going to have equity appreciation. That's what we're looking for when it comes to real estate investment. So number one thing is population growth. But number two thing we want to look at is job creation. Now, I'm going to throw this out to you again. Why do we want to find a place where jobs are being created? Why is that important? Well, it's very, very simple. If jobs are being created, that means population is going to move to where the jobs are, right? If an industry moves in, if a big industry moves into a small center, what happens? They have jobs. They can afford to either rent or buy, and the values can increase, the rents can go up. So number two thing we look for is, are jobs being created? What is happening in that particular province, that particular city? What's happening there? Are there industries moving in, or are there industries moving out when it comes to that location? Okay, so that's some of the things that we look for. Number 3 is incomes versus prices. Incomes versus prices. Let's say I'm looking to buy a property and the incomes in that property average $50,000. And the average house price is $800,000. And if I go to look to buy a property and I'm going to spend $800,000 and the average income in that neighborhood is $50,000, how well am I going to do? Well, I'm not even going to be close to cash flowing, am I? I'm going to be negative. So incomes versus prices is extremely important. And we call that the affordability index. So if you just Google affordability index, it will give you a ton of information and you will get to find out exactly what the affordability is in certain markets across the country. And here's the thing, guys, when we're talking about these 3 things, population growth, job creation, and affordability index, these are the things we want to look for in a market from a macro point of view. Okay, so let's say I choose to invest in Ontario. Let's say I choose to invest in Alberta, or maybe I choose to invest in Nova Scotia. Do I know whether that province is going up in population? Do I know whether or not that jobs are being created in that particular center? Do I know whether or not the affordability index makes sense or not? People can afford to live and are being paid enough to live with the house prices the way that they are? These are the things that we need to understand. And not only for us to understand that, we need to be able to then explain it to others if we're going to do some of the strategies we talked about earlier, such as joint venturing. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, let me know if this is making sense for you. Okay, give me a thumbs up or a heart or a like or something along those lines, or say, yes, this makes sense in the comments. Tiff just walked in. We can see you in the mirror, Tiff, by the way. Oh, no. Just your legs, just your legs. Yeah, and she is looking for her, she just got back. Okay. All right, so we are talking macro. Now let's nail that down a little bit more, guys. We talked about population growth, job creation. We talked about affordability index. Those things are all super important when it comes to figuring out the macro view of location that we're going to invest in. But let's narrow that down a little bit more. Let's say we choose a particular city because it has good job creation, good population growth. It's affordable as far as the prices are concerned. What else do we look for when it comes to a neighborhood? The neighborhood that and then after this, guys, we're going to talk about an actual property, okay? So the neighborhood, is it close to amenities, the things that your tenants are going to want to use and be close to? Is it close to a particularly good school? Is it close to a particularly good recreation center or park that a lot of people like to frequent? Is it close to shopping, grocery stores, that sort of thing? Is it close to an on-ramp to a freeway that can get them anywhere they want to go? Or maybe it's close to a major bus station or LRT or subway of some sort that can get them wherever they want to go. Transportation makes a big difference when it comes to a neighborhood. If we have one neighborhood that is easy access to everything, and across the tracks a neighborhood that isn't, makes a big, big difference. Okay, so we want to look to those sorts of things. But here's the number one thing that we need to think about when it comes to a location that we're going to invest in, and that is our tenant demographic. Our tenant demographic, okay? So what type of tenant do we want to rent to? What type of tenant do we want to deal with for the next 3, 5, 7, 10, 15 years? Do we want to rent to students? Do we want to rent to families? Do we want to rent to, I don't know, single guys that work in the oil field? Do we want to rent to young professionals? Who is it that we want to rent to? The neighborhood we choose can help to determine the tenant demographic that we're going to have. And here's the thing, guys, this is the number one thing that we've seen people leave real estate investment for. They have actually left their why. They've left their dreams that they want to accomplish when it comes to real estate investment. Why? Because they can't deal with the tenants. They've bought either in a neighborhood or a type of property where the tenant demographic is not one that they want to deal with. They get frustrated. They leave real estate investment. They tell all of the rest of us that real estate investment doesn't work. Why? Because they chose the wrong tenant demographic. So when it comes to buying, guys, when it comes to buying a property, I want you, number one, to figure out which type of tenant you want to rent to. So let's say I want to rent to a family. I want to have a typical family, maybe a couple of kids, that sort of thing. Now think about that. If I'm going to rent to a family, and we're going to go with this example for the next little while. If I'm going to rent to a family, what do they need? They got a couple of kids. They're going to need to be close to a school, aren't they? They probably want to be close to everything as far as shopping, grocery shopping, things that you're going to, maybe parks, entertainment centers, recreation centers, trails that they can go biking on. If you find a property or a neighborhood that's close to these types of things, is that going to attract a family? Absolutely. So if that's the type of tenant that we want to deal with, that is going to keep us in this game long enough so that the property values go up, so that our mortgages get paid down, then we have to figure that out up front. And this ties in with our point number 3 that we're going to move to tonight, guys, and that is the type of property, how to choose the type of property. And this ties in so well with tenant demographic. Now, if I want to rent to a family, am I going to buy a property that is a bachelor suite in a tall apartment building? Most likely not. If I want to rent to a family, am I going to want to buy a property that has a fenced backyard? Probably. That's going to attract families. If I rent to a family, am I going to want to have 1 bedroom upstairs and 3 in the basement? Probably not. Am I going to rent in a property that's going to have 3 bedrooms upstairs or maybe on the main floor that is accessible by everyone in the family? Probably. So the type of property we now choose, and this is getting even, we talked about the country, we talked about the province, we talked about the neighborhood. Now, if we're choosing a property, we want to choose one that fits the tenant demographic that we're looking for. Now, if we're looking for a young professional, maybe a 1 bedroom in a tall apartment building in downtown is going to work perfectly fine. But if we're wanting to rent to a family, it's not. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with either one of those instances, but guys, who do you want to deal with long term? You have to think about the tenant you're going to deal with long term. Okay, so tenant demographic has a big deal when it comes to choosing a property. What are some of the other things that we look for? Obviously, the amount of rent we can get for a property versus the amount that it's going to cost. And I'm going to show you guys a quick tool that you can use. It's on our website, investorlife.com. This is a tool that you can use. It's our cash flow calculator that can quickly help you determine whether you can afford to buy a property, whether it makes sense cash flow wise to buy a property or not. So I'm just going to share my screen here, guys, and bring this up. And here we go. This is our cash flow sheet. If you go to investorlife.com, you click at the top, CF calculator, you're going to be brought to this page, which is our cash flow calculator. And on this page, you guys, you can quickly make certain determinations when it comes to what you can rent a property for versus what you can buy that property for. So here's an example. I'm looking for a single family home. I don't care what market I'm in. I'm looking for a single family home. I want to figure out if the numbers work. Go to our website, use this calculator. Now, let's say I can find a property in this market for $500,000. I'm going to be putting 20% down, 3% interest rate, and a 30-year amortization. That figures out my mortgage payment up here for me. Okay. Now, this property that's worth $500,000, I figure I can rent it for $2,500. Now, if I rent that property for $2,500 and I'm managing it myself, what I'm trying to figure out here today, guys, is what are my hard costs? What is that property going to take out of my bank account every single month? So I want to make sure that those things are covered by my tenants. Okay. So I figure I can rent this property for $2,500. It's worth $500,000. My cash flow here is sitting at $443. My rent of $2,500 minus my mortgage, minus my taxes, minus my insurance payment equals just over $2,000 for my expenses, which is $440 a month when it comes to my monthly cash flow. Now, let's assume I'm going to have somebody manage this property for me. I'm going to have to pay them, let's say 11% property management. 10% is pretty much country average, maybe even a little more than that, 10 to 12%. My cash flow drops a little bit. Let's say this is an older property and it's going to require me to put some money aside. I want to put $100 a month aside for my repairs and my maintenance. My cash flow drops. Let's say the vacancy rate in my particular neighborhood is somewhere around 5%. Now, what does this property look like to me? Now I'm a break even or minus $30 a month. So for this property to work, what do I need to rent it out for? I need to rent it out for somewhere around $2,600 a month, because what's going to happen if I put this back to 10%, my repairs and maintenance, I put them back to $100, let's say 4%. And my vacancy, let's leave that at 5%. I'm roughly $50 a month. I'm break even. So if I can't rent this for $2,600 and the seller is asking for $500,000, it doesn't make sense for me to buy this or pay any more than $500,000. But if I could get this same property for $475, what does that do to my cash flow? This is where we can start to play with the numbers, guys. It starts to increase my cash flow. Now, if I can find a property that rents for that much and the $450,000 range, well, now I'm gaining $218 a month cash flow. And now I plan to manage that property myself. And we'll look at how that changes my cash flow. I'm at now almost $500 a month. So this is where you can play with the numbers, guys. Now, let's say I find a property, I'm the other way. I find a property that rents for $2,600. Okay, I rent for $2,600. I know there's a tenant in there paying $2,600 right now. How much can I pay for this property? I'm going to manage it myself. How much can I pay for this property? Well, let's see. If I put in $500,000, okay, still cash flowing. If I put in $525,000, I'm still cash flowing. How high can I go on this particular property? I can go up to $575,000 before we start getting close to break even. So now I know I can't pay more than that. It doesn't make any financial sense. You want to make sure that you are covered on your monthly expenses if you're going to buy a property. If you're looking at properties in the $500,000 price range, you've got to make sure that they're going to rent for the $2,500, $2,600 that you're going to end up having to need to cover your expenses. Play with this cash flow calculator, guys. Play with it and figure out how much can I afford at a certain rent, or if I pay this much, how much do I have to rent it for, and is that actually possible? That's what our cash flow calculator is designed for you to figure out. Okay, guys, so if you want to use that, go to investorlife.com, click at the top, CF calculator. It's going to help you figure out those numbers. And actually, let's go back to that briefly. At the very bottom of this, guys, you're going to see that it's also going to figure out your return on investment. You can choose how much your market is going to go up in a particular year. Is your market going up a little more or less? And it's going to change those numbers for you. So this is a tool designed for you, designed for our newbies, designed for all investors to figure out how the cash flow works on a property, how much actual total cash is required to close, because it's not just your down payment. You have other costs, closing costs that are necessary. So this is a great tool that we want you guys to be using going forward. So our newbies, this whole session tonight is designed for you. The session was designed to help you figure out which strategy you want to use and different ways to make money, how to choose a market, and how to choose a property. And hopefully we've covered some of the basics tonight, guys, that are super, super important for you newbies. We want you to reach out. We want you to throw comments in our Facebook group. We want you to ask other Fearless members if you have questions. No question is a dumb question, guys. We want you to understand this so that you can go out there and buy one property. If you buy one property, you're going to see how easy it is, and then you'll buy number two. But don't worry about number two right now. We want all of our newbies to go out there and buy one good, solid investment property. If you have questions beyond this, throw them in the chat, guys. If you have questions beyond this, throw them in our Facebook group and we will answer them. We want you to be successful. And guys, mid-October, we have another boot camp coming up. The exact dates are, give me 1 second. Let me pull up my calendar. Guys, we're going to put this as a post within our Fearless group here, but I believe the dates for our next boot camp are October 15 and 16. Mark that off on your calendars now, guys. This is for newbies. This is for our veterans. This is for our OGs within Ignited. This is for everybody to join our boot camp. You get to network, meet so many different investors, increase your knowledge when it comes to investment real estate, and learn some of the strategies that will help you raise capital, help you find joint venture partners. October 15, 16, guys, is our next boot camp. We are super excited about it. That will be at the end of our countrywide tour. And if you haven't seen it yet, guys, we are going east from the Edmonton area. We're going to be in Edmonton next week for our Fearless meetup and our Ignited dinners. And then we are going out east. We're going to be in Toronto, Montreal, Winnipeg, Ottawa. We're going through Quebec and into New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. And we are going to be meeting all of our Ignited members. And all of you here in Fearless, we got meetups designed for you guys too, to network, get to know other investors. We want you all to come out and say hi if you can. That's our training tonight, guys. I hope we got some good advice for you newbies. For those of you that are veterans, and maybe some of these things slip by us sometimes and we forget about them. For those of you that are our Ignited members, we will see you over in our Ignited session in about 5 minutes. We're going to be there. Otherwise, guys, thanks for joining us this week. Get out there, learn more about these strategies. If you want real support and you want to be surrounded by the best investors in Canada, join our Ignited program, guys, and you'll have it. It's as simple as that. But otherwise, we love having you here in Fearless, and I hope that we provided value tonight. So take care, guys, and we will see you next week for another Tactical Tuesday. Next week, we are live in Edmonton at our Fearless meetup. just like we did last week in Calgary. We're doing it in Edmonton. We're going to have all of our Fearless members come out and join us, say hi. We're going to be interviewing our Edmonton real estate professionals and getting an info on the market, what's happening in the Edmonton area. Is it a good place to invest? Yay or nay? We're going to find that out next week. Join us at our Fearless Real Estate meetup next week. We're going to put the event details and the location here within the Fearless group. So we hope to see all of you in the Edmonton area this coming Tuesday for another Tactical Tuesday. Take care, guys. Great to see you. See you soon.